I'm going to walk you through the automata process. So here we are taking a look at some of the drawings to make the box. So we need to kind of just start there. Before we even get moving though, I am going to go ahead and create a new folder. And I'm just going to call it Automata. Alright, so I've got it up there. Now I'm going to go ahead and get in here. And I'm going to just start a new document here, a new design. I'm going to start with the bottom, so I'm going to go to New Component, and for name, I like to use caps when I'm naming the thing. It shows up better, I believe. So I call it bottom. I'm going to go ahead and draw that now. I am actually going to start on the bottom, and we've got us a rectangle here. I'm going to kind of go back and forth with these drawings. Ours is going to be a little different because it just fits better for us. So it's 3.5 by 3 by everything's going to be a 1/4 inch thick. So 3.5 by 3. So I'm going to hit the D key for dimension. This is 3.5. And then over here is 3. And I know I can extrude that, right? I can extrude it to be 0.25. All right, so there's that bottom piece. All right, so let's take a look at the sides. So I think down here I've got the drawing of the side. It looks like it's 3 by 3.25 in a 1/2 inch circle, kind of centered there. So 3 by 3.25. So I'm going to say new component, right? And I'm going to say side. And now I'll come over here and I'm going to sketch. We've already got that side taken care of, right? So we knew that was 3. And then this will be 0.25 thick. Okay, and then I'll extrude this. Let me rotate that so it does a little bit better for us. And on this we said, let's go back to that drawing there. We said 3.25. Let me edit that extrusion and say 3.25. Alright, now I'm going to put the hole in. So I go up here to hole. Alright, so let's look at the drawing. It says 1.75 from the edge and 1.5 from that edge. So here's the hole. We know from this edge it's supposed to be 1.75. And then from another edge, so I'm just clicking reference. From there, that should be 1.5. And the hole itself, the diameter of that hole, which is right here, instead of 1.4, which they've given me, I need that to be 0.5. Right, and then I'm going to hit enter. And that side is taken care of. So I'm going to go back up here and I'll get the whole parent view. Now look at that. Side came in under bottom, didn't it? So I'm going to click and drag that up here. Now this side, I'm just going to go ahead and right click on it and say copy. And I'm going to right click and say paste. I'm just going to kind of drag this out and put it in position is what I'm doing. I'm going to kind of line it up with the edge. That's 3.3. If I go back, it's 3.2. So this must be 3.25. Yep. And I'll hit OK. I'm going to do one more new component, and I'm going to call this the top. So there's the top. I'll do new sketch here. And I'm going to just drag the rectangle across and make it meet in the corners. And I'll extrude all of this. And that also will be 0.25. Now we do have some holes in here, so let's check that drawing out. It looks like 0.75, 1.75, and 2.75, and then they're centered. And it looks like they're just 1/2 inch holes through. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. I'm going to do this just a little different. I'm going to go into sketch, and I'm going to create, and I'm going to say point, because I'm doing several at the same time. I kind of find the midpoint, and I know that they're just in here, right? I know from the drawing it says from this edge to this edge was 0.75, and then from the edge to the center one I think was 1.75, and I always forget that last one, but it looks like 2.75. So let's go ahead and take care of that as well. So I'm going to go from the origin over here to the dot, and that'll give me 2.75. So all of those are set. So now I'm going to hit finish sketch and I'll go to hole. Now the nice thing is I can click all of these at once and set them to 1/2 inch. Now really on our depth, the main thing is that they go through, right? And I'll hit OK. Now I'm going to go up here to the very top where it says unsaved, and I'm just going to highlight everything. Okay, so right now I want to show you this. Everything is going to move, right? Because we never did joint anything. So I'm going to undo that, and I'll show you a neat little trick. I'll go up here to Assemble, and I'm going to say As Built Joint. We're used to going to joint, but here's As Built, and I'm going to. It only will let you do 2 at a time, to my knowledge. Hit OK. I'll go back up there and say As Built Joint again, and I'll say here and here. So I'll get those 2 corners. Okay, now if I drag it, see that side will move and that side will move. So close, right? I'm going to put one more in, and I'll say As Built Joint. Let's do here and here. And just to be for sure, we'll go here and here. All right, now before I get going crazy though, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to take the bottom and I'm going to ground the bottom. Okay, so now nothing's going to move that's attached there. And let's go ahead and start working toward getting some other pieces in here. Let's go ahead and demo how to do the bushings. Those are the knobs that are on the side of it. So I'm going to go ahead and say new component, and I'm going to call this the bushing. I might just call it the bushing / knob, because I'm going to combine these two to make it a little simpler process. So I'll go ahead and do the new sketch thing. And I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to actually use the circle that's already there. Now, because in reality, I know that I'm going to 3D print these. I want it to be slightly smaller. I need to have some clearance. I know that that hole is 0.5, so I'm going to actually type in 0.5 minus 0.03. And that should give it the clearance we need. That 0.03 could be different depending on the printer, right? So I'm going to extrude that. Let's rotate it so we can see it. This actually needs to go this way, doesn't it? And it would need to go negative 0.25. And that would fill the gap. And then I'm going to come out here and I'm going to sketch a little bit more on the top. So now I'm going to create that knob piece. So here I'm just going to try to keep that. Let's make it like 1 inch. I believe that ought to get it. And I'm going to collect all of these circles here. And let's make that maybe what, 0.25 thick? Something like that. Go ahead and hit enter. Right, and now I think what I'll do is I'm going to go back in there. I need to put a square hole through there. So I'm going to go to create and I'm going to say rectangle and I'm going to say center point or center rectangle. So I'm really going to find the center of this again. Now again, this should be 0.25 by 0.25. Right, that would be perfect in a perfect world, but we know with 3D printing things can swell a little bit. So I'm going to say 0.25 plus 0.02. Then I'll tab over and do the same thing here, 0.25 plus 0.02. And that'll make it slightly larger so that everything should pass through. So what I'll do now is go ahead and just kind of extrude it, and I'm going to cut it all the way through. Okay, so there is a bushing. I think I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. I'm going to joint the thing. So let's go ahead and go up here to joints. And I'm going to get the center of that and put it on here. Okay, on this one, I'm going to go ahead and change this motion over to revolute. So that allows it to spin. So I've got that. Now, if I'm looking at that, probably should leave a little bit of clearance. But in reality, what's going to happen is because we have a wooden axle running through here, that's going to have a little bit of play to it, and we can back that off, or we can pull the knob out some. All right, let's go ahead now and create the axle. So I'm going to go make sure I've got the whole assembly right. So I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to say new component, and I'm going to call this one the cam axle. See new sketch, and I'm going to sketch on the outside of that knob. And on this one, I'm just going to hit project and use the square that I've already used. So I can either go up to create and choose project. I choose to press the P key, and I'll hit OK. And all I've done is just select the lines that were on the square. So now I'm going to extrude that shape, and I'm going to go all the way to the other side. So I got to remember that whatever I do have, so let me square it up. There's the front view. So that is, if I drag this arrow, that's perfect at negative 3.75. I need to remember though that I have to add that extra 1/4 inch, right? So let's make that -4, because I'm going to also have another knob over here, aren't I? Go ahead and go back up to the entire assembly. I will go ahead and I'm going to go back up here to assemble and say as built joint, and I'm going to click the knob here and the axle and just keep that as rigid. So now when I turn this, you see everything is going together, right? The circle is turning, the axle is turning. Okay. I'm going to right click on this joint, and I'm going to say go to home position. So that'll reset it. While we're here, let's go ahead and put the other bushing handle on there. I'm going to take right here, there's the bushing knob. I'm going to right click on it and say copy. And I'm going to right click and just paste it. And I'm going to pull it out over there. And I'm going to joint it. Is I'm going to put the end of this, so right in here, if I hit the control key, remember that'll leave it up. And I can select on that central button there. So there that is. And now I'm going to rotate it to the other side of the axle. And click there. Now I need to flip it. Now I don't know if you noticed, but on the motion, that thing was turning. So let's go to motion. And instead of revolute, let's make that rigid. So I'm going to hit OK now. And now I'm going to come over here to this knob and I'm going to turn everything. So you'll notice when I turn that this knob over here is turning as well. So next up in the process is to put the guides up here on the top. So let's go ahead and get those drawn in. First thing I'm going to do is say new component, and I'm just going to go over here, type in guide. Okay. Now I'm going to come to the top and you start a new sketch, capture the position. This was going to be a relatively snug fit, but let's go ahead and make that dot. Now remember, again, this is probably going to be another 3D printed piece. So instead of 0.5, I'm probably going to say 0.5 minus 0.02. Okay, just a little bit of tolerance there, because we do want this to be rather snug. So I'm going to hit extrude now. And we'll click there, and we're just going to take it down through the top, right? So that should be negative 0.25. I'm going to come back up on the top of that. And I'll draw one more circle here, and that one needs to be slightly larger. So I'm going to say, let's make that 0.75. And this is where things can get a little tricky here. We're going to make a loft here. So I'm going to finish the sketch, and I'm going to grab a plane up here. And I'm just going to click on this shape, click and hold, or click, and then I'm going to drag this up to where I want it to be. I'm going to say, let's make that a 1/2 inch tall. So just to show you where we're at here, I'm in a separate workspace or a work plane. Now I'm going to go to sketch on that new plane, and I'm going to put another circle up here. Now I need these to be numbers that are usable. So like the 0.585, let's try like a 0.6 here. And then we'll hit finish sketch. So now I'll go to create, and instead of extrude, I'm going to go to loft. So I'll click here and then up here, and that will give me that lofted shape. The nice thing is when I 3D print that, I'm probably going to 3D print it upside down. So in other words, this would be the bottom. Okay, and what that'll allow me to do is 3D print it without supports. So now I'm going to come in here onto the top, and I'm going to use that center rectangle. So rectangle and then center rectangle. I'm going to find the center of the circle again. Now we know that the wood and dowel rods are 0.25, so this joint in particular needs to do some sliding. I think I'm just going to jump up to 0.29 on both of them. because it's okay if we have a little extra clearance here. Remember, we really want that to be free. So now if I come in here, I can say extrude. I'm going to take it and go all the way through that shape. I'd say 1 inch ought to get it. There it is. So I'll go ahead and get back up to the entire assembly. And I think what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and go to Assemble and say As Built Joint. So I'll click here and here. And that should be good. So this is not going to move. I think from here I'll go ahead and copy that over. So copy. And then I'll paste again. Just kind of scoot this over into its place. Let's rotate that and see how it looks. It's a little bit off, isn't it? So let's go ahead and move it over. That looks good, and hit OK. Again, I'll go up here to Assemble and say As Built Joint, and click here and here. And do one more. So I'll come here and copy it. And I'll do one more paste. Right click and say Paste. And just scoot it over. It looks like every inch ought to get it. After I move it over the inch, I'll just hit OK. I'll go ahead and join it. So Assemble, and then say As Built Joint, click that, and click that, and then you're good to go. So now that takes care of the guide process.
So next up in the process, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start to put our follower system in. So we're going to put an axle through here and a little follower at the same time. So let's take a look at how to do that. Alright, so we're going to come over here and we're actually going to start our parts out here separately. So I'm going to say new component, and I'm going to call this the follower axle. Come out here with a new sketch somewhere. Let's try to keep them separate. So I'm gonna go to rectangle. I like the center rectangle, and let's make it 0.25 by 0.25 because this is gonna be a wooden axle. Let's go with like 3 inches on that. All right, so I've got one piece taken care of. Now I'm gonna put like the follower tip on there. So this is what the cam is actually gonna roll on. So this is going to be another new component. So new component, and let's call this one the follower tip. So I think I'll start right here on the end of it. A rectangle that's slightly larger. And another thing I could have done is use the offset here. So I'm going to say 0.25 plus 0.02. And I'll go back up here to the other one. So tabbed over. The same thing, so it's going to be slightly larger. That's kind of a big deal. Now I am going to use an offset, and I'm going to go off of the square I just made. I'm going to go with like a 0.1. Hit enter. I'm going to extrude that and take it up a little bit so that it wraps around that. And it's got to go up there a little bit. I'll say just like 0.2 is fine. Now I'm going to hit sketch and come back on top of that. And let's draw just a rectangle here across the whole thing. And now we'll extrude everything up here. So let's drag this out some. I'm going to go with like a 0.2 here as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fillet. So I'm going to choose my fillet tool and come get this corner and this corner. Just kind of push those in as much as I possibly can. I really want that to be round. Looks like as soon as I go from 0.225 to 0.5 or 0.25, it gets really nasty. So let's try like 0.235 or 0.235. That actually works really perfect. I want that to be round. So I'm going to hit OK. And also while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and make this a different appearance. This kind of helped me here because it's going to start getting pretty convoluted pretty quickly. So I'm just going to drag like a red over there and close. Now, before I move on, I want to come up here and kind of just get to this assembly here. And I want to go ahead and do an as-built joint. So I'm going to click the tip itself and the axle. Hit OK. And now these two pieces are together. So this is an actual assembly now. I'm going to go ahead and activate the entire automata now. So I'm in here, and I'm going to put a slider joint in. So I'm going to go up here and choose joint. I'm going to pick the end of that, and I'll come up here to the guide. Probably have to hit the control key, but there it is. Go over here to motion, and I'll choose slider. That's actually moving the way it's supposed to. See, it's moving vertically. If it comes in like this, where it's going across or this way, I just need to go up here to slide and change the axis. Okay, so there it is. Now I hit that, and you notice that that thing is upside down, and that's okay. Let's fix that. So it's going to be the last joint we put in, right? Here's the slider. So here's our joints. Here's slider. I'm going to right click on that and say edit it. And what I need to do is just flip it. So just flip. And hit OK. Now if I take a look at that, it's moving the way it's supposed to move. Alright, so let's take up from here. We've got our follower axle and our follower tip system in, our guide tip, whatever you want to call that. Now we're going to actually put a cam in here. So let's do that. Let's go over here. I'm going to say new component, and let's do an eccentric cam. It's pretty simple to do. We'll start over here with a new sketch. So I'm just going to kind of draw it out here. For our cam, I think I'm going to make the nominal diameter be 1.5, and then I'm going to use that rectangular, the center rectangle. I'll come down here somewhere. Now this needs to be slightly larger, so 0.25 plus 0.02. And again, those numbers change depending on the printer. Ours, a pretty snug fit, a press fit, or an interference fit as we call it. For us on our printers, it's 0.02. Other people, it's 0.03. And then if we want clearance, it could be a little larger, right? Alright, so I've got kind of the sketch made of the basic eccentric cam. Now I'm just going to hit extrude. Then we'll make that a 1/4 inch thick. While I'm here, I guess I'll go ahead and change the appearance of that. Just add a little color to it. So let's do like a blue here. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and activate the entire assembly. So this is kind of the pattern that these will follow now. We're going to go up here to assemble. We're going to choose a joint, and I'm going to come over here, and what I'm trying to do, I just want to get the center of this. Sometimes this will play nice, other times it won't. So what I'm trying to do is kind of hit the side of this. So there's a dot, and then I'll come over here on the axle and try to get a matching dot. Make sure it's flat. So that goes on there. Now it's still set to slide. That's okay, we'll fix that in just a minute. Right now we're going to slide it on down though. So I'm going to kind of turn to the front view. And all I'm doing right now is just putting it in position. So negative 1.2 is too far, negative 1.1 is not far enough. I'm going to try like 1.25 maybe. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So negative 1.125. Now I'm going to change the motion. Instead of slider, I need this to actually be rigid. I know you're probably thinking, why am I making it rigid? Doesn't it move? And it will move. But it's going to move based on this revolute joint. So rigid it is. Okay, so now if we go over here and we kind of animate our revolve here, you can see it turns. Now it's not making any contact here. Well, it is. It's going through it, right? That's not a natural movement. If we take a look, let's go ahead and take our revolute joint here. I'm just going to right click on it and choose go to home position. Now let's put a relationship in between here. So we're going to we're going to go to assemble, and we're going to see tangent relationship. So we'll click there. And now we're going to click, the edge of the cam and the bottom of the follower, the curved part of the follower. We'll click that, and now we'll hit OK. So now if we spin this, look at that. Now this thing is animated like it's supposed to be. Pretty neat. Now if I go over here to the, my actual joint, and I click on that, I can right click on it here and say, let's go to home position. So right click on it and say, you know what, let's animate those joint relationships. And let me zoom out a little bit so we can actually see what we've done. Let's get an ISO view on that. So you can see we've got motion together now, don't we? And that's really what we're after here. So we can repeat that same process for other ones. So let's do one more real quick. So to get out, I'll just hit escape on my keyboard. I'm gonna go ahead and take this follower axle. I'm gonna right click on it and say, let's copy that. And then I'm gonna right click and say paste. So we've got one coming out over here. So I'm gonna set it up the same way. This will be a joint. So we're gonna go to joint, and I'll say, all right, give me the face here. And let's do, all right, control again and get that face there as well. I don't know if you noticed, but that thing flipped over again. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the flip button. Motion this time will be slider. And it is already moving up and down. Remember, if that's messed up, and it shouldn't be this time because we already made it right, you go to slide and change the axis. Okay, so now if we zoom out here or kind of rotate around where we can actually see it, let's move that up a little bit. And let's go ahead and create one more cam. So new component, and let's do a pair cam. So I'm just going to come out here. I guess I'll start with a circle down here. Maybe make it, I don't know, I'll keep it at 1, and I'll draw another circle kind of at the top here, and I'll make it like 0.5. So it's going to be kind of tiny. And I'll go ahead and connect the lines. And we're making that snowman. Alright, and I'll use the tangent constraint. So let's go here and here, here and here. Basically, I'm connecting all sides. And I'll do one more thing. I've got that rectangle where I'm going to do a center rectangle. I'll come here and just draw it here. By now, I've already used this enough. I'm just going to say 0.27 and 0.27. And I could, if I wanted to, I could trim all these extra lines. But I don't really need to. I'm just going to hit extrude and select all these shapes in here. And then I'm going to say 0.25 because I want it to be 0.25 thick. Alright. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and change the appearance just to keep it kind of clean. I'll make this one, I guess we'll make it green. Alright, so I'm going to get the entire assembly back on. And it sets up the same way. So I'm going to go to joint. Come in here and hit the control key so I can get the center of that. Here and get the center of the axle as well. Now remember, the last one we used was slider, and that's okay. Right now we just need to put it in position. So I'm kind of sliding it, and then I'll choose the front view. Got to move some things around, don't I? Let's scoot this back just a hair. Oh, that's so close. Let's try negative 2.125. That looks really good. And I'm going to hit OK. Now before I go putting that tangent relationship, I do like to make sure that this is in the home position, our revolute. And it looks like it is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up to assemble, and I'm going to use that tangent relationship again. So bottom of the follower, somewhere on the cam. And now we can rotate that and things work.